In the heart of a dense forest, nestled far away from the bustling cities, lay the village of Eldridge. The village was surrounded by towering trees that seemed to touch the sky, their thick canopies casting long shadows over the cobblestone streets. Eldridge was a quaint, quiet place where everyone knew everyone else, and life moved at a leisurely pace. The villagers took pride in their simple way of life, which revolved around the changing seasons and the annual traditions that had been passed down through generations. The most eagerly anticipated event in Eldridge was the Harvest Festival. Every autumn, as the leaves turned vibrant shades of red and gold, the village would come alive with preparations for the festival. Bunting and lanterns decorated the streets, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of baked goods and the sound of laughter. The festival was a time of joy and celebration, a way for the villagers to give thanks for the bountiful harvest that sustained them through the year. Central to the Harvest Festival was the Scarecrow competition. Each year, villagers would compete to create the most lifelike and imaginative scarecrow. These scarecrows were not just ordinary figures stuffed with straw. They were crafted with meticulous detail, often dressed in old clothes and adorned with accessories to give them unique personalities. The scarecrows were displayed in the village square, where they stood tall and proud, their button eyes gazing eerily into the distance. Legend had it that the scarecrows were more than just decorations. According to village lore, the scarecrows housed the spirits of past festival goers. It was said that these spirits returned each year to protect the village and ensure a good harvest. The elders often told tales of scarecrows that moved on their own, their heads turning to follow passersby, their straw hands twitching as if alive. These stories, though chilling, were part of the festival's charm and added to the excitement of the competition. Among the villagers preparing for this year's festival was a group of close friends: Emily, Jack, Lucy, and Tom. They had grown up hearing the stories about the scarecrows and had always been fascinated by the legends. This year, they were determined to create a scarecrow that would not only win the competition, but also be the talk of the village for years to come. Emily was the creative force behind the group, with a knack for art and design. Jack was the builder, always handy with tools and materials. Lucy had flair for storytelling and often came up with the most imaginative ideas. Tom, though the youngest, had an infectious enthusiasm that kept the group motivated. Together, they planned to make a scarecrow that would be the envy of Eldridge. They gathered at Emily's house one crisp autumn afternoon, ready to start their project. The attic was filled with old clothes, bits of fabric, and other odds and ends that Emily's family had collected over the years. They rummaged through the piles, looking for the perfect pieces to bring their scarecrow to life. Emily found an old plaid shirt and a pair of faded jeans, while Jack unearthed a straw hat that had seen better days. Lucy discovered a pair of leather gloves, and Tom, with a triumphant grin, held up a pair of shiny black boots. As they worked, the friends shared stories and laughter, their excitement growing with each passing hour. Emily sketched out a face for their scarecrow, giving it a mischievous grin and piercing eyes. Jack constructed the frame, using sturdy wooden poles to ensure it would stand tall and steady. Lucy suggested adding a tattered scarf and a pocket watch to give the scarecrow an air of mystery, and Tom eagerly stuffed the body with straw, making sure it was plump and lifelike. By the time the sun set, the scarecrow was nearly complete. It stood in the middle of Emily's living room, its button eyes glinting in the dim light. The friends stepped back to admire their handiwork, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. Their scarecrow was unlike any other they had seen before. It had a presence, a lifelike quality that was both captivating and unsettling. "We should give it a name," Lucy said, breaking the silence. "Every great scarecrow needs a name." "How about Oliver?" Jack suggested. Oliver the Scarecrow. The others nodded in agreement. Oliver seemed to suit their creation perfectly. They spent the rest of the evening putting the finishing touches on Oliver, adding bits of straw to his hat and adjusting his scarf just so. As the night grew late, they finally stepped back, satisfied with their work. "He's perfect," Emily said, her voice filled with awe. "I think we have a real chance of winning this year." The friends agreed, feeling a surge of excitement for the upcoming festival. Little did they know that their creation was not just a scarecrow, but something far more sinister. As they left Emily's house that night, Oliver stood silently in the corner, his button eyes watching them go. The air seemed to grow colder, and the shadows in the room deepened, as if something unseen had stirred. The days leading up to the Harvest Festival were filled with anticipation. The village square was bustling with activity as villagers set up stalls, hung decorations, and prepared their own scarecrows for the competition. Oliver was carefully transported to the square and placed among the other entries. The friends watched with bated breath as villagers stopped to admire their work, their faces reflecting a mix of admiration and unease. As the festival drew closer, strange things began to happen in Eldridge. Small items went missing from homes, and eerie whispers were heard in the dead of night. The villagers brushed it off as festival excitement, but the friends couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. One evening, as they gathered to discuss their concerns, Tom mentioned seeing Oliver's head turn slightly when no one was looking. The others laughed nervously, dismissing it as a trick of the light. But the unease grew. Emily started having nightmares about Oliver, dreaming that he came to life and roamed the village at night. Jack noticed that the straw inside Oliver seemed to shift and settle on its own, as if it had a mind of its own. Lucy's usually vivid imagination took a darker turn, filling her thoughts with images of Oliver reaching out with his straw-stuffed hands. Despite their fears, the friends tried to focus on the festival. The day finally arrived, and the village square was alive with color and sound. Music played, children ran around with painted faces, and the smell of roasted corn and apple pie filled the air. The scarecrow competition was the highlight of the day, and villagers crowded around to admire the entries. Oliver stood out among the scarecrows, his piercing eyes and mischievous grin drawing everyone's attention. The judges walked around, inspecting each scarecrow and discussing their merits. When they reached Oliver, they paused, exchanging glances before moving on. The friends held their breath, hoping for the best. As the sun set and the festival reached its peak, the winners of the Scarecrow competition were announced. Emily, Jack, Lucy, and Tom stood together, their hearts pounding with anticipation. When Oliver was declared the winner, they erupted in cheers, hugging each other in joy. Their hard work had paid off, and they had created something truly special. But as the celebration continued, the eerie occurrences in the village grew more frequent. People started disappearing, one by one. First, it was Old Man Jenkins, who lived on the edge of the village. Then it was Mrs. Thompson, the baker. The friends grew more and more alarmed as the disappearances continued, their excitement turning to dread. One night, as they gathered to discuss what to do, they heard a rustling sound outside Emily's house. Peeking through the window, they saw Oliver standing in the garden, his button eyes glinting in the moonlight. His head turned slowly, as if searching for something. The friends froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. "What are we going to do?" Lucy whispered, her voice trembling. "We need to find out what's happening," Jack said, his face pale but determined. "We need to stop this." Together, they devised a plan to confront Oliver and uncover the truth. They waited until the village was asleep, then crept out of Emily's house and made their way to the square. Oliver stood among the other scarecrows, silent and still. The friends approached cautiously, their fear mounting with each step. As they stood before Oliver, Emily took a deep breath and reached out to touch him. The moment her fingers brushed against his straw-stuffed arm, Oliver's head snapped around, his button eyes locking onto hers. The friends gasped, stepping back in horror. "Who are you?" Emily demanded, her voice shaking. "What do you want?" For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a low, raspy voice emerged from Oliver, sending chills down their spines. "I am the spirit of the harvest," he said, "and I have come to claim what is mine." The friends stared in shock as Oliver's body began to move, his straw limbs creaking as he stepped forward. They turned to run, but Oliver was faster, his long arms reaching out to grab them. One by one, they were pulled into his grasp, their screams echoing through the empty village square. The next morning, the villagers woke to find the square deserted. The scarecrows stood silently, their button eyes gazing out over the village. Emily, Jack, Lucy, and Tom were nowhere to be found. The villagers searched frantically, but there was no trace of them. The harvest festival ended in sorrow and fear. The legend of the scarecrows grew darker, and the villagers whispered of the spirits that haunted their village. The Scarecrow competition was never held again, and Oliver was burned and scattered to the winds. But the memory of that fateful festival lingered, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked in the shadows. And though the villagers tried to forget, they could never shake the feeling that something was watching them, waiting for the next harvest festival to come. The days after the harvest festival were marked by a heavy pall of silence and grief that settled over the village of Eldridge. The villagers were haunted by the mysterious disappearances of Emily, Jack, Lucy, and Tom. Despite extensive searches, the friends were never found, and their families were left with nothing but questions and heartache. The once joyful village now wore an air of dread, as if the very ground remembered the horrors that had taken place. As autumn deepened, the villagers tried to return to their normal routines, but the shadow of the harvest festival loomed large. Emily's house, where the friends had spent so many happy hours together, stood empty and forlorn. Jack's tools lay unused in his workshop, and Lucy's stories were left untold. Tom's laughter, which had once filled the air with joy, was now a ghostly echo that haunted those who had known him. The Scarecrow competition was never mentioned again, and the villagers avoided the square where the scarecrows had once stood. However, strange occurrences continued to plague Eldridge. Objects would move on their own. Eerie whispers could be heard at night, and villagers reported feeling an unseen presence watching them. The legend of the haunted scarecrows had become more than just a story. It was a living nightmare. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the village was bathed in twilight, a meeting was held in the town hall. The elders, who had once delighted in telling the tales of the scarecrows, now wore expressions of grave concern. The villagers gathered, their faces pale and drawn, as the head elder, Mr. Hawthorne, rose to speak. "We cannot ignore what has happened," Mr. Hawthorne began, his voice trembling. "The disappearances of our young ones and the strange events that followed are beyond explanation. We must come together to find a solution, to protect our village from whatever evil has been unleashed." Murmurs of agreement and fear rippled through the crowd. One by one, the villagers shared their experiences, each tale more unsettling than the last. Mrs. Thompson spoke of finding her kitchen utensils rearranged in the shape of a scarecrow. Mr. Jenkins described hearing footsteps in his attic at night, even though no one was there. The stories painted a picture of a village under siege by an unseen, malevolent force. Among the villagers was a newcomer named Samuel, a young man who had recently moved to Eldridge in search of a quiet life. He listened intently to the stories, his curiosity piqued and his mind racing with thoughts of how he might help. Samuel had always been fascinated by the supernatural, and he had a keen interest in folklore and legends. He stepped forward, his eyes shining with determination. "Perhaps there is a way to uncover the truth," Samuel suggested. "We need to delve deeper into the history of these scarecrows and the spirits they are said to house. There must be a reason why this is happening now." The villagers were hesitant at first, but Samuel's enthusiasm and willingness to help won them over. They agreed to support him in his quest for answers. Samuel spent the following days poring over old books and records in the village library, searching for any clues that might shed light on the dark history of the scarecrows. As he dug deeper, Samuel discovered a series of old journals written by the village's founding families. These journals recounted tales of the first harvest festivals, where scarecrows were created as a tribute to the spirits of the land. The scarecrows were meant to honor these spirits and ensure a bountiful harvest, but over time, the tradition had taken on a darker tone. There were mentions of strange rituals and sacrifices, suggesting that the villagers had once made pacts with the spirits to guarantee their prosperity. One journal, in particular, caught Samuel's attention. It belonged to a woman named Eliza, who had lived in Eldridge over a century ago. Eliza's entries were filled with warnings about the scarecrows and the dangers of invoking the spirits. She wrote of a powerful spirit named Morwenna, who demanded offerings in exchange for protecting the village's crops. Eliza's warnings were clear. The spirits must not be angered, or they would bring ruin upon the village. As Samuel read these chilling accounts, he realized that the creation of Oliver, the friend's scarecrow, might have unintentionally invoked Morwenna's wrath. The intricate design and the collective energy of Emily, Jack, Lucy, and Tom had somehow awakened the spirit, and their disappearances were part of a larger plan to reclaim what she believed was hers. Determined to stop the malevolent force, Samuel gathered a group of villagers who were willing to face the danger head-on. Together, they planned to perform a cleansing ritual that would appease Morwenna and banish her from the village. The ritual required specific elements: a bundle of sage, a vial of holy water, and an offering of fresh harvest produce. These items were believed to pacify the spirit and restore peace to Eldridge. On the night of the ritual, the village square was eerily quiet. A cold wind swept through the empty streets, and the full moon cast long shadows over the cobblestones. The villagers, led by Samuel, gathered around the remnants of the Scarecrow competition, where Oliver had once stood. They lit candles and placed the sage, holy water, and produce at the center of the square. Samuel began to chant the words he had found in Eliza's journal, his voice steady and firm. The villagers joined in, their voices rising in unison as they called upon Morwenna to accept their offering and leave their village in peace. The wind grew stronger, whipping around them as if in response to their pleas. The flames of the candles flickered wildly, casting eerie shapes on the ground. As the chanting reached its peak, a shadowy figure appeared in the center of the square. It was the form of a woman, her features indistinct, but her presence undeniable. The villagers gasped in fear, but Samuel stood his ground, continuing the chant with unwavering determination. The shadowy figure seemed to waver, as if caught between two worlds. With a final, powerful incantation, Samuel cast the holy water onto the figure. There was a blinding flash of light, and the figure let out a piercing scream before dissipating into the night. The wind ceased, and an eerie silence fell over the square. The villagers held their breath, waiting to see if their efforts had been successful. Slowly, the tension began to ease. The oppressive feeling that had hung over the village lifted, and the air felt lighter, as if a great weight had been removed. The villagers exchanged relieved glances, their faces showing the first signs of hope they had felt in weeks. Samuel let out a sigh of relief, grateful that their plan had worked. In the days that followed, the strange occurrences ceased. The village of Eldridge began to heal, though the memory of the harvest festival and the disappearances lingered. The villagers rebuilt their lives, taking solace in the knowledge that they had faced a great evil and survived. They honored the memory of Emily, Jack, Lucy, and Tom by planting a garden in the village square, a symbol of life and renewal. As for Samuel, he became a respected member of the community, his bravery and knowledge earning him the gratitude of the villagers. He continued to study the legends and folklore of Eldridge, determined to ensure that such a tragedy would never happen again. And though the village moved on, the legend of the haunted scarecrows remained a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers that lay hidden in the shadows. The harvest festival was never the same, but the spirit of the village endured, stronger and more united than ever before. The village of Eldridge, though seemingly returned to a state of normalcy, never truly forgot the eerie events surrounding the last harvest festival. The garden planted in memory of Emily, Jack, Lucy, and Tom became a sacred space where villagers often visited to reflect and remember. Yet, despite the outward calm, a subtle tension lingered in the air, an unspoken agreement among the villagers to remain vigilant. Samuel continued to immerse himself in the study of the village's folklore, spending long hours in the library and seeking out the oldest inhabitants to hear their stories. He learned more about Morwenna, the powerful spirit of the harvest, and the intricate rituals that had once been performed to honor and appease her. The more he discovered, the more he realized that the events of the past year were just the surface of a much deeper and older mystery. One evening, as Samuel was studying an ancient manuscript, he came across a passage that sent a chill down his spine. It spoke of a prophecy tied to the harvest festival, a warning that if the spirits were angered, they would return every 100 years to claim new souls. The manuscript described a cycle of unrest, where the village would be plagued by disappearances and strange occurrences, just as they had experienced. Determined to prevent another tragedy, Samuel gathered a group of trusted friends, people who had shown courage and resilience during the last crisis. Among them were Helen, a schoolteacher with a keen interest in history; Robert, a farmer who had a deep connection to the land; and Margaret, an elderly woman who was a living repository of the village's oral traditions. Together, They formed a council dedicated to protecting Eldridge from the supernatural threats that seemed to lurk just beneath the surface. The council began to plan for the next Harvest Festival, which was now less than a year away. They decided to hold a series of public meetings to educate the villagers about the true nature of the scarecrows and the spirits. At first, the villagers were skeptical, but the memory of the last festival was still fresh, and gradually, more and more people began to take the warnings seriously. Helen took on the role of educating the children, weaving the history and legends of Eldridge into her lessons in a way that captured their imaginations while also teaching them to respect the old traditions. Robert focused on preparing the land, ensuring that the fields were blessed and that no crops were planted without the proper rituals. Margaret, with her vast knowledge of folklore, worked closely with Samuel to decipher old texts and uncover any additional clues that might help them. As the months passed, a sense of unity grew among the villagers. They worked together to prepare for the festival, not just as a celebration, but as a ritual of protection and reverence. They created new scarecrows, carefully following the old ways, ensuring that each one was a true tribute to the spirits. The scarecrows were blessed and placed around the village to guard against any malevolent forces. Despite their efforts, a sense of foreboding hung over the village. Strange things began to happen once again, whispers in the night, shadows that moved on their own, and a feeling of being watched. Samuel and the council remained vigilant, knowing that these were signs of Morwenna's displeasure. They continued their preparations, determined not to let fear undermine their resolve. On the eve of the Harvest Festival, the village was bathed in a golden light as the sun set over the horizon. The council gathered in the garden dedicated to the lost friends, holding a final ceremony to honor their memory and seek their guidance. Samuel spoke solemnly, his voice filled with both sorrow and determination. We stand here today to remember those we have lost and to honor the spirits of our ancestors. We ask for their protection and their wisdom as we face the challenges ahead. Let us be strong, united, and vigilant, for the future of Eldridge depends on us. The villagers joined hands, their faces lit by the flickering light of the lanterns. Together, they chanted an old prayer, their voices blending in a harmonious plea for peace and safety. As the final words faded into the night, a sense of calm settled over the group, as if the spirits had heard their call and offered their blessing. The day of the Harvest Festival dawned bright and clear, the sky a brilliant blue, and the air filled with the crisp scent of autumn. The village square was once again transformed with colorful decorations, stalls selling handmade goods, and the sound of music and laughter. But beneath the festive surface, a current of tension ran through the crowd. The scarecrows stood tall and silent, their button eyes watching over the proceedings. Samuel and the council moved through the crowd, ensuring that everything was in place. The rituals were performed meticulously, and the villagers participated with a newfound respect for the traditions. As evening approached, the square filled with people eager to see the scarecrow competition and the other festivities that marked the height of the celebration. As the sun set and the lanterns were lit, casting a warm glow over the village, Samuel felt a chill run down his spine. He glanced at the scarecrows, their figures looming in the dim light, and felt an uneasy sensation, as if something was stirring just beyond his sight. He signaled to the council, and they discreetly began to position themselves around the square, ready for anything that might happen. The competition began, and one by one, the scarecrows were presented to the judges. The villagers watched with a mixture of pride and apprehension, their faces reflecting the complex emotions that had become intertwined with the festival. As the last scarecrow was presented, a hush fell over the crowd. It was time to announce the winner. Before the judges could speak, a cold wind swept through the square, extinguishing the lanterns and plunging the village into darkness. Gasps of fear rippled through the crowd as shadows seemed to come alive, moving with an unnatural fluidity. Samuel felt a surge of panic, but forced himself to stay calm. He raised his voice, trying to restore order. "Stay together," he called out. "We must stay strong and united." The villagers huddled together, their fear palpable. Suddenly, a low, menacing voice echoed through the square, sending shivers down their spines. "You dare defy me?" The voice hissed. "You think you can banish me with your feeble rituals?" Samuel recognized the voice of Morwenna, the spirit they had tried to appease. He stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We seek only to honor you and protect our village," he said, his voice steady despite the terror he felt. "We ask for your mercy and your guidance." A dark figure materialized in the center of the square, its form shifting and indistinct. The villagers recoiled in fear, but Samuel held his ground. The figure moved towards him, and he could feel the cold emanating from it. A deep, bone-chilling cold. "Your ancestors made a pact," Morwenna said, her voice a haunting whisper. "A pact that has been broken. I demand what is mine." Samuel took a deep breath, gathering his courage. "We are willing to honor the pact," he said. "Tell us what we must do to make things right." For a moment, there was silence. Then Morwenna spoke again, her voice softer but no less menacing. "There must be a sacrifice," she said, "a soul to replace the ones taken. Only then will I be appeased." The villagers gasped in horror, and Samuel felt a wave of despair wash over him, but he knew there was no other way. He turned to the crowd, his face pale but resolute. "I will be the sacrifice," he said quietly. "If it means saving Eldridge, I will give myself." A murmur of shock and sadness rippled through the villagers, but no one objected. They knew the gravity of the situation, and they respected Samuel's bravery. He stepped forward, facing Morwenna with unwavering resolve. "Very well," Morwenna said. "Your sacrifice will be accepted. The village will be spared." As she spoke, the dark figure began to dissolve, and Samuel felt a strange, cold sensation envelop him. He closed his eyes, accepting his fate. The last thing he heard was the collective gasp of the villagers as the darkness consumed him. When Samuel opened his eyes, he was standing in a place that seemed both familiar and alien. It was the village square, but everything was bathed in an eerie, otherworldly light. The scarecrows were there, but they were no longer lifeless figures. They moved and shifted, their button eyes glowing with a strange, ethereal light. Morwenna stood before him, her form now clear and distinct. She was a tall, regal figure with flowing hair and eyes that seemed to pierce his very soul. "You have fulfilled the pact," she said. "Your village is safe." Samuel nodded, a sense of peace washing over him. He knew he had done the right thing, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. He glanced around, seeing the faces of the scarecrows, each one a soul taken by Morwenna over the centuries. They were not evil, he realized, but lost and seeking peace. Morwenna extended her hand, and Samuel took it. Together, they walked into the light, leaving behind the village of Eldridge. The scarecrows followed, their forms dissolving into the ether. The village would be safe, at least for another 100 years. Back in Eldridge, the villagers mourned Samuel's loss, but took solace in the knowledge that they were protected. They vowed to honor his memory and keep the old traditions alive, ensuring that the pact would never be broken again. The garden in the village square became a place of remembrance and reflection, a symbol of sacrifice and unity. As the years passed, the legend of Samuel and the Harvest Festival became an integral part of Eldridge's history. The villagers continued to celebrate the festival, not with fear, but with reverence and respect for the spirits that watched over them. And though they never forgot the dark events of the past, they faced the future with hope and determination, knowing that they were stronger together. And so the village of Eldridge endured, its people united by a shared history and a promise to protect their home. The scarecrows, once symbols of fear, became guardians of the harvest, watching over the fields with their silent, eternal vigilance. The story of Samuel and the Harvest Festival was told and retold, a tale of courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bond between the living and the spirits of the land. Years passed in the village of Eldridge, and the tale of Samuel's sacrifice became a cornerstone of the community's collective memory. The garden in the village square, lush and blooming, served as a living tribute to those who had been lost and those who had safeguarded the village's future. The Harvest Festival continued to be celebrated with renewed respect and a deeper understanding of the balance between honoring tradition and safeguarding against the unknown. Helen, Robert, and Margaret, though older, remained vigilant protectors of Eldridge's heritage and safety. Their leadership and wisdom guided the village through each harvest festival, ensuring that the rituals were observed with the utmost care. The scarecrows, now regarded as sacred guardians, were crafted with reverence, each one a tribute to the spirits that watched over the village. One autumn, a newcomer named Eliza arrived in Eldridge. She was a young artist with a keen interest in folklore, drawn to the village by its rich history and the stories she had heard of Samuel and the Harvest Festival. Eliza quickly integrated into village life, her vibrant personality and artistic talents endearing her to the villagers. She became particularly close to Helen, Robert, and Margaret, eager to learn from their extensive knowledge and experience. Eliza was fascinated by the scarecrows and the legends surrounding them. She spent hours sketching the scarecrows in the village square, her drawings capturing their eerie beauty and the sense of watchfulness they exuded. As the Harvest Festival approached, Eliza decided to create a scarecrow of her own, hoping to honor the traditions while adding her unique artistic touch. With Helen's guidance, Eliza selected materials and began crafting her scarecrow. She chose an old weathered coat, a pair of sturdy boots, and a wide-brimmed hat that cast deep shadows over the scarecrow's face. Eliza paid special attention to the details, hand-stitching the eyes and mouth to give the scarecrow a lifelike appearance. She adorned it with colorful ribbons and charms, symbols of protection and good fortune. As Eliza worked on her scarecrow, she noticed a peculiar thing. At times, she felt a strange connection to the figure, as if it were watching her with silent understanding. She brushed off these feelings as her imagination running wild, a side effect of spending so much time immersed in the village's folklore. But the sensation lingered, a subtle reminder of the supernatural forces that had once wreaked havoc on Eldridge. One evening, as Eliza put the finishing touches on her scarecrow, Helen visited her workshop. The elder woman examined the scarecrow with a critical eye, nodding in approval at Eliza's craftsmanship. "You've done well, Eliza," Helen said. "This scarecrow will surely stand as a proud guardian of our village." Eliza smiled, grateful for Helen's praise. "Thank you, Helen. I wanted to create something that honored our traditions while also bringing a bit of myself into it." Helen's expression turned serious. "Remember, Eliza, the scarecrows are more than just decorations. They are a link between our world and the spirits that protect us. Treat them with respect, and they will watch over us." Eliza nodded, feeling the weight of Helen's words. "I understand. I'll make sure to honor them properly." The night before the Harvest Festival, Eliza placed her scarecrow in the village square alongside the others. The square was filled with a quiet sense of anticipation, the scarecrow standing sentinel in the moonlight. As Eliza stepped back to admire her work, she couldn't shake the feeling that her scarecrow's eyes followed her movements, a silent witness to the preparations. The festival day dawned crisp and clear, the air filled with the sense of autumn and the sounds of joyful activity. Villagers bustled about, setting up stalls, arranging decorations, and preparing for the day's events. The scarecrows, now fully adorned and blessed, stood as silent guardians, their presence a reminder of the village's storied past. Eliza joined in the festivities, her heart light with excitement. She participated in the rituals, ensuring that her scarecrow was properly honored and blessed. Throughout the day, she couldn't help but feel a strange energy in the air, a sense that something significant was about to happen. As evening approached and the festival reached its peak, Eliza found herself drawn to the village square. The scarecrows stood tall and silent, their figures casting long shadows in the fading light. Villagers gathered around, eager for the culmination of the day's events, the announcement of the winning scarecrow. Helen, Robert, and Margaret took their places as judges, their faces solemn and reflective. They examined each scarecrow with care, discussing their merits and craftsmanship. When they reached Eliza's scarecrow, they paused, exchanging thoughtful glances. Finally, Helen stepped forward, her voice ringing clear in the evening air. "We are honored to have such a beautiful and meaningful creation as part of our festival this year," Helen said, her eyes meeting Eliza's. "Eliza's scarecrow embodies the spirit of our traditions and the creativity of our future. We declare her scarecrow the winner of this year's competition." A cheer erupted from the crowd, and Eliza felt a surge of pride and joy. She stepped forward to accept the prize, her heart full as she thanked the villagers for their support. As she stood beside her scarecrow, a sudden gust of wind swept through the square, rustling the ribbons and charms that adorned it. The wind carried a whisper, a soft, ethereal voice that seemed to come from the scarecrow itself. "Thank you, Eliza," the voice said. "You have honored us well." Eliza froze, her eyes widening in shock. She glanced around, but no one else seemed to have heard the voice. She looked at her scarecrow, its eyes gleaming with an unspoken knowledge. The realization hit her like a bolt of lightning. The spirit of Morwenna was present, watching over the festival. Before she could react, the wind died down, and the scarecrow returned to its silent vigil. Eliza took a deep breath, her mind racing with the implications of what she had heard. She knew she had to share this experience with Helen and the council to ensure that the village remained vigilant and respectful of the spirits that guarded them. That night, as the villagers celebrated the successful festival, Eliza gathered with Helen, Robert, and Margaret. She recounted the strange whisper she had heard, her voice trembling with the weight of the revelation. The council listened intently, their faces reflecting a mixture of concern and understanding. "This confirms what we have always believed," Helen said quietly. "The spirits are very much with us, watching and guiding our actions. We must continue to honor them and ensure that we never forget the lessons of our past." Robert nodded in agreement. "We've done well this year, but we cannot become complacent. We must remain vigilant and respectful, always mindful of the pact that binds us to the spirits." Margaret's eyes sparkled with a hint of mischief, and perhaps it's time we started sharing more of our knowledge with the younger generation. "Eliza, you have a gift for connecting with the past. Maybe you can help us teach the children about our traditions." Eliza smiled, feeling a sense of purpose and belonging. "I would be honored to help. Together, we can ensure that the spirit of Eldridge remains strong." The council agreed, and from that day forward, Eliza became an integral part of the village's efforts to preserve and protect their heritage. She worked closely with Helen, Robert, and Margaret, learning from them and sharing her knowledge with the younger villagers. The scarecrows, once symbols of fear, became revered guardians, their presence a reminder of the delicate balance between the living and the spirits. As the years went by, the village of Eldridge thrived, its people united by a shared history and a commitment to honoring their traditions. The Harvest Festival remained a time of celebration and reflection, a chance to remember those who had come before and to look forward to the future. And through it all, the scarecrows stood watch, silent sentinels guarding the village and its people. The legend of Samuel, Eliza, and the haunted scarecrows continued to be told and retold, a story of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of community. And though the village faced its challenges, it did so with the knowledge that it was never alone, that the spirits of the land were always there, guiding and protecting them. In the end, the village of Eldridge found peace not by forgetting its past, but by embracing it, learning from it, and passing its lessons down through the generations. The scarecrows, once symbols of a dark and terrifying legend, became beacons of hope and unity, a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit. And so, the story of the Harvest Festival lived on, a timeless reminder of the power of tradition, the importance of respect, and the unbreakable bond between the living and the spirits that watch over them. As time marched on, Eldridge remained a village steeped in tradition and vigilant in its practices. The Harvest Festival evolved each year, integrating both old rituals and new customs that reflected the changing times. Eliza, now a respected figure in the village, continued her work of bridging the gap between the past and present. She became the unofficial historian and folklore keeper, ensuring that the tales of the scarecrows and the spirits were never forgotten. One autumn, several decades after Samuel's sacrifice, a new threat loomed on the horizon. The village had grown slightly, with a few new families moving in, bringing fresh perspectives and occasionally skepticism about the old ways. Among the newcomers was a man named Richard, a scholar who believed in rational explanations for everything. He scoffed at the village's rituals and dismissed the legends as mere superstition. Richard's arrival coincided with a series of unusual events. Livestock began to go missing, crops withered unexpectedly, and the once peaceful nights were disturbed by unsettling sounds that no one could trace. The villagers, particularly the older generation, were convinced that the spirits were displeased. Helen, now elderly but still sharp, called for a meeting to address these concerns. Eliza, now in her 40s, attended the meeting with a sense of urgency. The village hall was filled with worried faces, and the atmosphere was tense. Helen stood at the front, her presence commanding attention despite her years. "We faced this before," Helen began, her voice firm. and we survived by respecting our traditions and the spirits that protect us. We must not falter now." Richard, sitting in the back, stood up and addressed the crowd. "With all due respect, these are just coincidences. There are logical explanations for everything that has happened. We cannot let fear dictate our actions." The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Eliza stepped forward, her gaze steady. "Richard, I understand your skepticism, but we have a long history with these spirits, and our traditions have kept us safe for generations. Ignoring them could have dire consequences." Richard shook his head. "We can't live in fear of myths and legends. We need to find real solutions to our problems." The villagers murmured among themselves, divided between the old ways and Richard's modern approach. Helen raised her hand, calling for silence. "We must be cautious. We cannot afford to disregard our past, but perhaps there is a way to address both perspectives." Eliza nodded, understanding Helen's intention. "Let's investigate these occurrences with an open mind. We'll honor our traditions while also seeking rational explanations." The villagers agreed, and a plan was set in motion. Richard, though skeptical, agreed to participate in the investigations. He joined Eliza and a few other villagers in examining the fields and barns, searching for any clues that might explain the strange happenings. Meanwhile, Helen and the elders prepared for a series of rituals to appease the spirits, hoping to restore balance. As the investigations progressed, Richard began to notice patterns that he couldn't easily explain. The livestock tracks led to nowhere, crops withered in perfectly healthy soil, and the unsettling sounds seemed to come from all directions at once. Despite his initial disbelief, Richard found himself questioning his own conclusions. One evening, while searching the outskirts of the village, Richard stumbled upon an old, overgrown path that led to a forgotten part of the forest. The path was lined with ancient stones, each etched with symbols that Richard didn't recognize. Intrigued, he followed the path deeper into the woods, feeling a strange pull guiding him forward. He emerged into a small clearing where an old, dilapidated shrine stood. The shrine was covered in moss, and the air around it felt thick with an unspoken presence. Richard felt the chill run down his spine as he approached the shrine, his skepticism giving way to a sense of awe and fear. Back in the village, Eliza and the others were preparing for the final ritual of the harvest festival. The scarecrows had been carefully crafted and blessed, their silent figures standing watch over the fields. As dusk fell, the villagers gathered in the square, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the lanterns. Helen led the ritual, her voice steady and clear as she chanted the ancient words. The villagers joined in, their voices rising in unison. The air seemed to hum with energy, and the scarecrow's button eyes gleamed in the darkness. Suddenly, a figure burst into the square, breathless and wide-eyed. It was Richard, his face pale and his expression a mix of fear and realization. "I found something," he gasped. "An old shrine in the forest. I think it might be connected to what's happening." Eliza stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Show us," she said. Richard led a small group, including Eliza, Helen, and a few other villagers, back to the path he had discovered. The journey through the forest was eerie, the shadows seeming to move with them. When they reached the clearing, the villagers gasped at the sight of the ancient shrine. Helen approached the shrine with reverence, her fingers tracing the symbols etched into the stones. "This is a place of great power," she murmured. "It must have been abandoned long ago. The spirits here have been neglected." Eliza nodded, understanding the significance. "We need to perform a ritual here to honor and appease the spirits." With Richard's help, they gathered the necessary materials and prepared for the ritual. As they began to chant, the air grew colder and the shadows around them deepened. The villagers felt a palpable presence, as if the spirits were watching, waiting. The ritual was long and arduous, but the villagers persisted, their voices unwavering. As they completed the final incantation, a sudden burst of light emanated from the shrine, illuminating the clearing. The oppressive feeling lifted, replaced by a sense of calm and peace. The group returned to the village, exhausted but relieved. The strange occurrences ceased, and the livestock and crops began to thrive once more. The villagers, though shaken by the experience, felt a renewed sense of unity and purpose. Richard, now a believer in the power of the village's traditions, apologized for his skepticism. I see now that there is more to this world than what can be explained by reason alone, he admitted. I was wrong to dismiss your beliefs. Eliza smiled, her eyes reflecting both understanding and gratitude. We all learned something important. The balance between tradition and progress is delicate, but it's essential for our survival. Helen, her eyes twinkling with wisdom, added, we must always respect our past while embracing the future. Eldridge has faced many challenges, but we endure because we honor the spirits and each other. The village of Eldridge continued to thrive, its people united by a shared history and a commitment to preserving their traditions. The Harvest Festival remained a time of celebration and reflection, a testament to the resilience and strength of the community. The scarecrows, standing tall and silent, served as eternal guardians, watching over the village and its people. As the years turned into decades, the story of Richard's transformation and the discovery of the ancient shrine became part of Eldridge's rich tapestry of legends. The villagers passed down these stories, teaching each new generation the importance of respecting the spirits and maintaining the delicate balance between the seen and unseen worlds. In the end, the village of Eldridge found peace not by forgetting its past, but by embracing it, learning from it, and passing its lessons down through the generations. The scarecrows, once symbols of a dark and terrifying legend, became beacons of hope and unity, a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit. And so, the story of the Harvest Festival lived on, a timeless reminder of the power of tradition, the importance of respect, and the unbreakable bond between the living and the spirits that watch over them. One autumn, as the festival approached, Lily decided to take on the challenge of crafting a scarecrow. She enlisted the help of her friends, Emma, Noe, and Sophie, who shared her enthusiasm and curiosity. Together, they gathered materials and began to plan their creation, determined to honor the traditions while adding their own unique touch. Lily's grandmother, Margaret, now in her late years, watched with pride as the children worked on their scarecrow. She saw in Lily the same determination and respect for the past that had guided the village through many challenges. Margaret knew that the future of Eldridge was in good hands. As the children crafted their scarecrow, they paid close attention to every detail. They used an old, worn coat that belonged to Noah's grandfather, a pair of sturdy boots from Emma's family, and a hat that had been passed down through Sophie's lineage. Lily added her own touch by weaving ribbons and charms into the scarecrow's arms, each one a symbol of protection and good fortune. One evening, as they were putting the finishing touches on their scarecrow, Lily noticed something unusual. The scarecrow's button eyes seemed to sparkle in the dim light, and she felt a strange sense of connection, much like Eliza had felt years before. Lily mentioned this to her friends, but they dismissed it as a trick of the light, eager to finish their work. On the night before the Harvest Festival, Lily and her friends placed their scarecrow in the village square among the other entries. The square was filled with an air of anticipation, the scarecrow standing tall and proud under the moonlight. As they stepped back to admire their creation, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that their scarecrow was somehow different, alive in a way that she couldn't explain. The day of the festival dawned bright and clear, the village bustling with activity. Stalls were set up, decorations hung, and the scent of baked goods filled the air. The scarecrow competition was the highlight of the day, and villagers gathered to admire the entries and participate in the rituals. As evening approached, the square filled with people, their faces glowing with excitement. The judges, now led by Eliza, moved among the scarecrows, carefully examining each one. When they reached Lily's scarecrow, they paused, exchanging thoughtful glances. Eliza smiled, recognizing the same creativity and respect for tradition that she had once brought to her own scarecrow. The scarecrow created by Lily, Emma, Noe, and Sophie is a beautiful representation of our traditions and the spirit of our village, Eliza announced, her voice carrying over the crowd. We declare their scarecrow the winner of this year's competition. Cheers erupted from the crowd, and Lily and her friends beamed with pride. They stepped forward to accept their prize, their hearts full of joy. As they stood beside their scarecrow, a sudden gust of wind swept through the square, rustling the ribbons and charms that adorned it. Lily felt a shiver run down her spine, the same sense of connection she had felt before. That night, as the villagers celebrated, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that their scarecrow was more than just a creation of straw and cloth. she decided to visit the garden in the village square, hoping to find some answers. As she approached the garden, she saw a figure standing among the flowers. It was Margaret, her grandmother, gazing thoughtfully at the scarecrows. "Grandma," Lily called softly, stepping into the garden. "Do you believe the scarecrows are truly alive?" Margaret turned to her granddaughter, her eyes twinkling with wisdom. "The scarecrows are vessels, Lily. They carry the spirit of our traditions and the energy of those who create them. When we put our hearts into making them, they become more than just scarecrows. They become guardians, protectors of our village." Lily nodded, feeling a deep sense of understanding. "I felt something when we made our scarecrow. It was like it was watching over us." Margaret smiled, placing a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "That's because it was. You and your friends poured your love and respect into that scarecrow, and it responded. The spirits recognized that, and they will watch over you and our village." As the night wore on, the villagers continued their celebration, unaware of the silent guardians standing watch over them. The scarecrows, with their button eyes and lifelike presence, remained vigilant, a testament to the enduring bond between the living and the spirits. In the years that followed, Lily and her friends grew into the next generation of village leaders, guided by the wisdom and traditions passed down to them. They continued to honor the scarecrows and the spirits, ensuring that the lessons of the past were never forgotten. The Harvest Festival remained a time of celebration and reflection, a bridge between the old and the new. And so the village of Eldridge thrived, its people united by a shared history and a commitment to preserving their traditions. The scarecrows, once symbols of fear, stood as beacons of hope and unity, watching over the village with silent, eternal vigilance. The story of Lily and her friends became another chapter in the rich tapestry of Eldridge's legends, a reminder of the power of tradition, respect, and the unbreakable bond between the living and the spirits. As the seasons turned and the years rolled on, Eldridge remained a village steeped in history and guided by the wisdom of its ancestors. The scarecrows, standing tall and silent in the fields, continued to watch over the village, their presence a symbol of the enduring connection between the past and the present. And through it all, the spirit of the Harvest Festival lived on, a timeless celebration of unity, tradition, and the strength of the human spirit. As Eldridge continued to prosper, the village's connection to its past deepened. Each Harvest Festival was more than just a celebration. It was a reaffirmation of the bond between the villagers and the spirits that watched over them. The scarecrows, now revered as sacred guardians, were treated with utmost respect, their creation and maintenance considered acts of both art and devotion. One autumn, as the Harvest Festival drew near, a sense of anticipation and excitement filled the air. This year's festival promised to be particularly special, as it marked the centennial anniversary of Samuel's legendary sacrifice. The villagers were determined to make it a memorable event, one that would honor Samuel's legacy and reaffirm their commitment to the traditions that had protected them for so long. Preparations began weeks in advance. The village square was adorned with vibrant decorations, lanterns, and banners. Stalls were set up to sell handmade goods, and the scent of freshly baked pies and roasted corn filled the air. The villagers worked tirelessly, each one contributing to the festivities in their own way. Lily, now a young woman and a respected member of the village council, took charge of organizing the scarecrow competition. She remembered the stories her grandmother, Margaret, had told her and felt a deep sense of responsibility to uphold the traditions. Together with her friends Emma, Noah, and Sophie, she set out to create a scarecrow that would be both a tribute to Samuel and a symbol of the village's enduring spirit. They gathered materials from around the village, selecting items that held significance and history. An old military coat that had belonged to a village hero, a pair of sturdy boots that had walked countless miles in the fields, and a hat that had been passed down through generations. Lily added her personal touch, weaving ribbons and charms into the scarecrow's frame, each one a symbol of protection and good fortune. As they worked, the friends felt a sense of camaraderie and purpose. They shared stories and laughter, their bonds strengthened by the task at hand. Lily couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, but this time it was a comforting presence, as if the spirits of the village were guiding their hands. The night before the festival, the scarecrow stood complete in the center of the village square. It was a magnificent creation, imbued with the collective love and respect of the community. As the villagers gathered for the blessing ceremony, a hush fell over the square. Eliza, now one of the village elders, led the ritual, her voice clear and strong as she chanted the ancient words. The air seemed to shimmer with energy as the blessing was completed. The villagers held their breath, waiting for a sign that the spirits had accepted their tribute. A soft breeze stirred the ribbons on the scarecrow, and for a moment it felt as if the scarecrow's eyes glinted with a life of their own. The villagers exhaled in relief, feeling a sense of peace and protection. The day of the harvest festival dawned bright and clear. The village was alive with activity as people prepared for the day's events. Children ran through the streets with painted faces, laughter ringing in the air. Music played from every corner, and the stalls were filled with the vibrant colors of autumn produce and handmade crafts. The scarecrow competition was the highlight of the day, and villagers crowded around to admire the entries. Each scarecrow was a work of art, reflecting the creativity and dedication of its creators. When it was time to announce the winner, Lily and her friends stood together, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Eliza stepped forward, her face glowing with pride. "This year's scarecrow competition has been truly remarkable," she began. "Every entry is a testament to the love and respect we hold for our traditions, but one scarecrow stands out as a symbol of our unity and our commitment to honoring the past while looking to the future." She turned to Lily and her friends. "The scarecrow created by Lily, Emma, Noel, and Sophie is a magnificent tribute to Samuel and the spirit of our village. We declare the winner of this year's competition." Cheers erupted from the crowd, and the friends hugged each other, their faces alight with joy. As they stepped forward to accept their prize, a familiar breeze swept through the square, rustling the ribbons and charms on their scarecrow. Lily felt a warmth in her heart, knowing that the spirits were pleased. That evening, as the festivities continued, the village square was bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. The scarecrows stood tall and silent, their presence a comforting reminder of the village's guardians. The villagers danced and sang, their hearts light with the joy of the celebration. As the night wore on, Lily found herself drawn to the garden in the village square. She stood among the flowers, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. The stories of Samuel, Eliza, and her grandmother Margaret played in her mind, a tapestry of courage, sacrifice, and tradition. "Are you thinking about the future, Lily?" a familiar voice asked. Lily turned to see Eliza standing beside her, a knowing smile on her face. "Yes," Lily replied, "I'm thinking about how far we've come and how important it is to keep these traditions alive." Eliza nodded. "You've done a wonderful job, Lily. Your scarecrow is a beautiful tribute to our past and a beacon for our future. The spirits are pleased, and our village is stronger because of your dedication." Lily smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment. "Thank you, Eliza. I couldn't have done it without the guidance of those who came before me." Eliza placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. "Remember, the strength of our village lies in our unity and our respect for the spirits. As long as we honor our traditions and stay true to our values, Eldridge will continue to thrive." The two women stood in silence, watching the scarecrows as the moon rose high in the sky. The festival continued around them, a celebration of life, love, and the enduring spirit of the village. In the years that followed, Lily and her friends continued to play pivotal roles in the village's life. They passed down the stories and traditions to the next generation, ensuring that the legacy of Samuel, Eliza, and all those who had come before them would never be forgotten. The scarecrows remained vigilant guardians, their presence a testament to the unbreakable bond between the living and the spirits. The village of Eldridge, rich in history and tradition, stood as a beacon of hope and unity. The Harvest Festival, with its scarecrows and rituals, became more than just a celebration. It was a reminder of the strength and resilience of the human spirit. And so, the story of Eldridge and its people continued to unfold, a timeless tale of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of tradition. As Eldridge flourished, the villagers' bond with their traditions only deepened. The scarecrows, now revered as sacred protectors, were woven into the very fabric of the village's identity. Each year, the Harvest Festival grew in significance, drawing not only the villagers but also curious visitors from nearby towns who had heard whispers of Eldridge's rich history and mystical guardians. One autumn, as preparations for the harvest festival were in full swing, an unexpected visitor arrived in Eldridge. A woman named Dr. Evelyn Moore, an anthropologist specializing in folklore and ancient traditions, had heard about the unique customs of Eldridge and decided to study them firsthand. Her arrival was met with a mix of curiosity and caution from the villagers, who were protective of their traditions. Dr. Moore was a woman of science, with a keen interest in uncovering the roots of folklore and understanding the cultural significance behind ancient rituals. She had traveled extensively, studying various cultures and their practices, but something about Eldridge intrigued her on a deeper level. The stories of the scarecrows and the harvest festival resonated with her, and she hoped to unravel the mysteries that lay beneath the surface. Lily, now a central figure in the village's council, welcomed Dr. Moore with cautious optimism. She understood the importance of preserving their traditions, but also saw the value in sharing their history with the outside world. Lily offered to be Dr. Moore's guide, introducing her to the villagers and explaining the significance of the harvest festival and the scarecrows. As Dr. Moore delved into her research, she was struck by the depth of the villagers' connection to their traditions. She spent hours in the village library, poring over old manuscripts and journals, many of which detailed the legends of the scarecrows and the spirits. She interviewed the elders, including Eliza and Margaret, who shared their personal experiences and the stories passed down through generations. Despite her scientific background, Dr. Moore found herself drawn to the mystical elements of Eldridge's traditions. The scarecrows, with their lifelike presence and the villagers' reverence for them, seemed to bridge the gap between the tangible and the ethereal. As she learned more about the rituals and the legends, she began to see the scarecrows not just as symbols, but as living embodiments of the village's history and spirit. One evening, as the sun set over the village, Dr. Moore joined Lily and the council for a meeting. They gathered in the village hall, the air thick with the scent of autumn leaves and the anticipation of the upcoming festival. Dr. Moore presented her findings, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and reverence. Eldridge is a place where the past and present coexist in a delicate balance, Dr. Moore began. The scarecrows are more than just guardians. They are a living link to your ancestors and the spirits that protect this village. The rituals you perform are not merely traditions. They are acts of respect and connection, ensuring that the bond between the living and the spirits remains strong. The villagers listened intently, their faces reflecting a mix of pride and understanding. Lily felt a sense of validation, knowing that their traditions had been acknowledged and appreciated by someone from the outside world. She stepped forward, addressing both the villagers and Dr. Moore. "We are grateful for your insights, Dr. Moore. Your research has helped us see our traditions through a new lens, and we appreciate your respect for our ways. As we prepare for this year's Harvest Festival, let us remember the importance of honoring our past while embracing the future." The villagers nodded in agreement, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Dr. Moore, humbled by the villagers' openness and trust, offered to assist with the festival preparations, eager to participate in the rituals she had come to admire. As the festival day approached, the village square buzzed with activity. Dr. Moore worked alongside the villagers, helping to craft the scarecrows and decorate the square. She marveled at the creativity and dedication that went into each scarecrow, understanding now that they were not just figures of straw and cloth, but embodiments of the villagers' hopes, fears, and reverence for the spirits. On the eve of the Harvest Festival, a special ceremony was held in the village square. The scarecrows, now complete, were arranged in a circle, their button eyes gleaming in the moonlight. The villagers gathered around, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of lanterns. Lily and Eliza led the ritual, their voices blending in a harmonious chant that echoed through the night. As the chant reached its peak, a soft breeze swept through the square, rustling the scarecrow's clothes and carrying with it a sense of peace and protection. The villagers felt a comforting presence, as if the spirits were acknowledging their efforts and offering their blessing. Dr. Moore, standing among the villagers, felt a deep sense of connection. She realized that the true power of Eldridge's traditions lay not in the rituals themselves, but in the unity and respect they fostered among the villagers. She understood now that the scarecrows were more than just symbols. They were a testament to the enduring spirit of the village. The day of the harvest festival dawned bright and clear, the village alive with excitement. Stalls lined the streets, filled with handmade crafts and delicious treats. Children ran through the square, their laughter mingling with the music that filled the air. The Scarecrow competition was the highlight of the day, and villagers eagerly awaited the announcement of the winner. When the time came, Lily and Eliza took the stage, their faces glowing with pride. This year's Scarecrow competition has been truly remarkable, Lily began. Each scarecrow is a work of art, reflecting the creativity and dedication of its creators. But one scarecrow stands out as a symbol of our unity and our commitment to honoring the past while embracing the future. Eliza stepped forward, her voice filled with emotion. The scarecrow created by Dr. Evelyn Moore and the villagers of Eldridge is a magnificent tribute to our traditions and the spirit of our village. We declare the winner of this year's competition. Cheers erupted from the crowd, and Dr. Moore felt a surge of pride and gratitude. She stepped forward to accept the prize, her heart full as she thanked the villagers for their trust and support. As she stood beside the scarecrow, a familiar breeze swept through the square, rustling the ribbons and charms that adorned it. Dr. Moore felt a warmth in her heart, knowing that the spirits were pleased. That evening, as the festivities continued, Dr. Moore found herself drawn to the garden in the village square. She stood among the flowers, reflecting on her journey and the connections she had made. Lily joined her, a knowing smile on her face. "Thank you, Dr. Moore," Lily said softly. "You helped us see our traditions in a new light and reminded us of the importance of honoring our past." Dr. Moore smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude. "It is I who should thank you, Lily. Eldridge has taught me that the true power of tradition lies in the unity and respect it fosters. Your village is a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit." The two women stood in silence, watching the scarecrows as the moon rose high in the sky. The festival continued around them, a celebration of life, love, and the enduring spirit of the village. In the years that followed, Dr. Moore's work in Eldridge became renowned, her research highlighting the importance of preserving and respecting ancient traditions. The villagers, inspired by her dedication, continue to honor their heritage while welcoming new perspectives and ideas. The village of Eldridge, rich in history and tradition, stood as a beacon of hope and unity. The Harvest Festival, with its scarecrows and rituals, became more than just a celebration. It was a reminder of the strength and resilience of the human spirit. And so, the story of Eldridge and its people continued to unfold, a timeless tale of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of tradition. As the years went by, Eldridge continued to be a beacon of unity and tradition, attracting visitors and scholars intrigued by its unique blend of history and folklore. Dr. Evelyn Moore's research brought much attention to the village, and her books on Eldridge's traditions became widely respected works in anthropological circles. Despite the influx of outsiders, the villagers remained steadfast in their customs, ensuring that the essence of the Harvest Festival and its significance was never diluted. One autumn, a new challenge threatened the harmony of Eldridge. A developer named Harold Graves arrived in the village, proposing a plan to build a resort that would capitalize on the village's growing fame. His proposal included modern amenities and attractions that, he argued, would bring economic prosperity to Eldridge. However, his plans required significant changes to the village square and the surrounding fields, areas sacred to the villagers and integral to the Harvest Festival. Graves was charismatic and persuasive, promising jobs and increased revenue. Some villagers, particularly the younger generation who had not experienced the darker times of Eldridge's past, were tempted by his vision of progress. They saw opportunities for growth and modern conveniences that could make their lives easier. However, many of the older villagers and the council members, including Lily, were deeply concerned about the potential loss of their traditions and the disruption of the spiritual balance that had protected their village for centuries. A town meeting was called to discuss Graves' proposal. The village hall was packed, the air thick with tension and conflicting emotions. Harold Graves stood confidently at the front, presenting his vision with polished rhetoric and glossy brochures. He painted a picture of a prosperous future, with tourists flocking to Eldridge to experience its charm and folklore. Lily, standing with Eliza and other council members, listened with a heavy heart. When Graves finished his presentation, She stepped forward to address the villagers. Her voice was steady but filled with emotion. "I understand the allure of progress and the benefits that Mr. Graves promises," Lily began, "but we must consider the cost. Our traditions are not just relics of the past. They are the foundation of our community. The scarecrows, the rituals, and the harvest festival are integral to our identity and our connection to the spirits that protect us. Altering the village square and the fields where we honor these traditions could have unforeseen consequences." Margaret, now elderly but still sharp, stood and added, "We have faced many challenges over the years, and we have always relied on our unity and respect for the spirits to see us through. The scarecrows are not just decorations, they are guardians. If we disrupt the balance, we risk angering the spirits and losing the protection that has kept us safe." Graves, sensing the resistance, tried to reassure the villagers. "I assure you, we can incorporate your traditions into the new development. The scarecrows can be part of the resort's attractions. Think of it as preserving your heritage in a way that brings prosperity to everyone." Lily shook her head. "Our heritage is not a commodity to be exploited. It is a living tradition that requires respect and understanding. We cannot simply commercialize it without losing its true meaning." The villagers were divided. Some saw Graves' proposal as an opportunity for progress and financial stability, while others, particularly the elders, feared the loss of their traditions and the potential wrath of the spirits. After a heated debate that stretched late into the night, the village council decided to hold a vote. They would give the villagers time to consider both sides and cast their ballots the following week. The atmosphere in Eldridge was tense, with neighbors and even family members on opposing sides of the issue. During that week, Lily and the council members worked tirelessly to remind the villagers of the importance of their traditions. They organized community gatherings where elders shared stories of the village's history, emphasizing the times when the scarecrows had protected them from harm. These gatherings were filled with emotional recollections, and many villagers felt a renewed sense of pride and responsibility towards their heritage. Meanwhile, Harold Graves continued his campaign, holding meetings to highlight the economic benefits of his proposal. He brought in experts to discuss potential job creation and improvements to infrastructure. His promises were alluring, and he had a knack for making progress sound inevitable and necessary. As the day of the vote approached, tensions reached a boiling point. The village square, usually a place of harmony, became a hub of debate and uncertainty. Eldridge was at a crossroads, and the decision would shape its future in ways that no one could fully predict. On the evening before the vote, Lily stood in the garden where the scarecrows were displayed. The moonlight cast a gentle glow over the figures, and the air was filled with a sense of quiet reverence. She closed her eyes, hoping for a sign or a sense of guidance from the spirits that had always watched over them. Just then, she felt a soft breeze, and the sound of footsteps approached. She turned to see Dr. Evelyn Moore standing there, her face thoughtful. "I've been thinking a lot about this," Dr. Moore said softly. "There's something unique and irreplaceable about Eldridge's traditions. They've survived because they've been honored and protected, not commercialized." Lily nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude. "Thank you, Evelyn. Your understanding means a lot. Tomorrow's vote is crucial, and I hope the villagers remember what truly makes Eldridge special." The next day, the villagers gathered in the hall, their faces a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The council, including Lily, Eliza, and Margaret, stood at the front, ready to oversee the voting process. Each villager was given a ballot to mark their choice, to preserve the village and its traditions, or to accept Graves' proposal for modernization. One by one, the villagers cast their votes. The hall was silent except for the rustling of paper and the occasional hushed whisper. When the last vote was cast, the council retreated to count the ballots. The tension was palpable, with everyone awaiting the decision that would determine the fate of their village. After what felt like an eternity, Lily and the council returned to the hall. Lily took a deep breath before addressing the crowd. "The results are in," she began, her voice steady. "The majority of villagers have voted to preserve our traditions and protect the sacred spaces that are integral to our heritage." A collective sigh of relief swept through the hall, followed by applause and cheers. Many villagers hugged each other, tears of joy and relief streaming down their faces. Even some who had supported Graves' proposal felt a sense of peace. recognizing the importance of unity and respect for their roots. Harold Graves, though disappointed, gracefully accepted the decision. He approached Lily and the council, offering a polite nod. "I respect your choice," he said. "Eldridge is truly unique, and I hope it continues to thrive." Lily smiled, extending her hand. "Thank you, Mr. Graves. We appreciate your understanding." As the villagers celebrated their decision, Lily felt a profound sense of pride and gratitude. Eldridge had faced a significant challenge and emerged stronger, reaffirming its commitment to the traditions that had sustained it for generations. The Harvest Festival that year was especially poignant. The Scarecrows stood tall and proud in the village square, their presence a reminder of the enduring spirit of Eldridge. The villagers participated in the rituals with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that they had protected something precious. Dr. Moore continued her research, documenting the events and the village's decision to preserve its heritage. Her work highlighted the importance of respecting and honoring traditions, and Eldridge became a case study in the balance between progress and preservation. In the years that followed, the village thrived, maintaining its unique blend of history and community spirit. The Scarecrows remained vigilant guardians, and the Harvest Festival continued to be a time of celebration and reflection. Eldridge's story was one of resilience, unity, and the enduring power of tradition. And so, the village of Eldridge stood as a testament to the strength of its people and the unbreakable bond between the living and the spirits. The Scarecrows, with their lifelike presence and silent watch, embodied the village's history and hope for the future. The story of Eldridge, rich with courage and sacrifice, continued to inspire generations, a timeless tale of the power of tradition and the resilience of the human spirit. Years turned into decades, and the village of Eldridge remained a beacon of tradition and unity, its rich history preserved and respected by each new generation. The decision to preserve the village's sacred spaces and honor its traditions proved to be a turning point, cementing Eldridge's reputation as a place where the past and present coexisted harmoniously. Dr. Evelyn Moore's work brought international attention to Eldridge. Her books and lectures emphasized the importance of cultural preservation and the power of community. Scholars and tourists alike visited the village, drawn by its unique blend of folklore and living tradition. Eldridge became a model for other communities seeking to balance progress with respect for their heritage. Lily, now a respected elder herself, continued to play a central role in the village. She took great pride in mentoring the younger generation, sharing the stories and rituals that had been passed down to her. Under her guidance, the Harvest Festival flourished, each year more vibrant and meaningful than the last. The Scarecrows, standing tall and proud, remained vigilant guardians, their presence a comforting reminder of the village's resilience. Emma, Noel, and Sophie, Lily's childhood friends, also grew into influential figures within the village. Emma became a teacher, instilling in her students a deep appreciation for their history. Noah took over his family's farm, integrating sustainable practices that honored the land and the spirits. Sophie became an artist, her works inspired by the legends and landscapes of Eldridge, attracting admirers from far and wide. One particular autumn, as the centennial anniversary of Samuel's sacrifice approached, the village prepared for an extraordinary harvest festival. This year, the festival would not only celebrate the harvest, but also commemorate the enduring spirit of Eldridge and its people. The preparations were more elaborate than ever, with villagers and visitors alike contributing to the festivities. Lily and the council planned a special ceremony in the garden where the Scarecrows stood. They invited descendants of Samuel, Eliza, Margaret, and other key figures from Eldridge's history to participate. Dr. Moore, now an honorary member of the village, was also present, her research having immortalized Eldridge's story in academic circles. The night of the festival, the village square was illuminated by lanterns, casting a warm golden glow over the gathered crowd. The Scarecrows, meticulously crafted and adorned, seemed to come alive in the flickering light. The air was filled with the sounds of music and laughter, a celebration of life and unity. Lily stood at the center of the square, her heart full as she addressed the crowd. Tonight, we honor our ancestors, our traditions, and the spirits that watch over us. We celebrate the courage and resilience that have brought us here and the unity that will guide us into the future. She turned to Dr. Moore, who stepped forward with a smile. Eldridge has taught me the profound importance of respecting and preserving cultural heritage. This village is a testament to the power of tradition and the strength of community. I am honored to be part of your story. As the ceremony continued, a soft breeze rustled the ribbons and charms on the scarecrows. The villagers felt the familiar, comforting presence, a sign that the spirits were pleased. They joined hands, their voices rising in a harmonious chant that echoed through the night, a tribute to their shared history and hope for the future. The festival was a resounding success, a joyous celebration that brought together people from all walks of life. The stories of Eldridge, once local legends, now inspired a global audience, highlighting the village as a symbol of the enduring power of tradition and the resilience of the human spirit. In the years that followed, Eldridge continued to thrive, its people united by a deep respect for their past and a shared vision for their future. The scarecrows, standing as silent sentinels, watched over the village with their lifelike presence, embodying the unbreakable bond between the living and the spirits. And so, the story of Eldridge lived on, a timeless tale of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of tradition. The village, rich in history and united in purpose, remained a beacon of hope and unity, inspiring generations to come. The legacy of Samuel, Eliza, Lily, and all those who had come before them was honored and preserved, a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit.